Yes, we are.
So here with Christopher.
Yes.
All right, Christopher, the word of the year. It's a new year. People are getting started. They're cleaning stuff up. Credit.
Yes, I like it. It's a good place to start.
It is the place to start, right?
That is true.
Without this, you aren't
Can't do
needed.
anything.
I mean, you're always needed, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, someone has to have a lot of cash. So yeah, so without credit, I don't know, what else would I do?
Good, bad, or indifferent. So even no credit isn't a good thing. So
Correct.
Too much cash isn't always good, right? So somebody comes to you, I've got bad credit. What does that mean to you?
I honestly, credit, if someone says, hey, I have bad credit, it's not necessarily bad because life can happen to anyone. And so when I just like to know, okay, do you have any red flags? Doesn't mean that it's bad, but are there red flags on there? So have you paid your bills on time? And especially in the last 24 to 36 months. Or if there is anything late on there, why was it late? Let's talk about it. If you have collections, where are they from? How long ago? Those sorts of things. Or sometimes someone will say hey, I have bad credit, and because it's not an 800, they think that it's bad. But a 740 is viewed the same as an 800. So it's but to them, however they were raised or whatever they've been taught, you just have to know everyone doesn't understand it. And so because they don't understand it, they just have their own perception and idea of it's not as good as what someone told me it should be, and they have no clue where to start.
What's most impactful when you paying on time, paying something? And let me ask you this, because I heard this before, I just want to clarify. Late is if it's over 30 days late. Correct. So you could, if it's due on the 15th, if you pay on the 17th, that's not technically late.
It's late to where you'll get a late fee, but it's not reporting to the credit bureau. And that is the key. So you can have, there's some people who are just hey, I had my mortgage payment and technically it's due on the 1st. Grace period is good till the 15th. They didn't pay it until they got paid on the 17th. But now if that same person paid it on, and we're in January, so if they paid it on February 7th, then yes, you are 30 days late. But if it was due on January 1st, grace period through the 15th, you paid on January 17th, you're fine. You just have a late fee.
Right.
If you pay on February 7th, that's when it's 30 days late.
Got it. And
so
that's a big no-no.
Yeah. You don't want that. You just really don't. And the reason why is because especially credit is built up of a number of things. However, payment history and credit and the length of an account and how many years it's been reporting, those are two big factors on basically what helps contribute to your score. So if you're always late, you're not helping your credit at all. But if you've had a credit card since you were 18 years old, and that's the one thing that you've paid on time, yes, that is helping. However, but if you have, a car payment and if it's just not affordable and so every single month, if you're 30 days late on it, you might as well just not have the car.
Got it. So, okay, for all of our young teenagers that are now at the age where they go into a store and their bill is $200 and they say, well, if you open this credit card and you get 20% off, but then you can just close it. Good idea, bad idea?
That's hard. And the reason why I say that it's hard is because there's one or two things that can happen. I always say that if you have really good credit, you can have as many store credit cards as you want, because that means that you have a good, healthy relationship with them. So if balance is $200, but then you're going to save, $40, $50 by opening up that account and you have the money, sure, go ahead, open it. And knowing that as soon as you get the statement, you can pay that off, beautiful. But if you're not going to do that because you don't have a good, healthy relationship with credit cards, then you don't want to do that. And you also can't make a habit out of it. So you can't go to Old Navy, go to Target, go to Banana Republic, go wherever else, and then it's just credit card, credit card, credit card. And just because you decided that you had a rough week and it's like shopping spree time, you don't want to do that, because then at that point, then you have too many hard credit inquiries. So you have to have a healthy balance with it, but which is credit cards and credit in general. It's like life. You have to know how to basically categorize it, but also have a healthy relationship with it.
Makes sense. So for folks that are thinking 2025 is their year they want to buy, so in their mind it's, I need to get all my credit cards paid off, I need to get my debt under control. Where do they start? Should they start by talking to you? Because is there things that it's okay that they have debt?
Yes.
So what would be your advice for somebody that's going, all right, I got to prioritize what I do so I can buy a house this year with my credit?
They can do a few things. They can either go to, it's like freeannualcreditreport.com or annualcreditreport.com. You can do that once a year, check your credit, and they'll either let you download a PDF copy of it, or you can, they'll mail you a copy. So you can start there depending on how it looks, okay? Especially if you are aware and you know somewhat about credit, sure, start there. Don't call me. Like, you can do that. However, sometimes it doesn't show you everything that it needs to show you, and it doesn't always tell you your scores. So I prefer that you call me. I can do a soft credit pull. We can do a credit review, go through it, and just say, hey, these things need some attention. These things, it doesn't really matter. Or is it that person who says like, hey, my credit's bad, and it's not?
Right.
But then when it comes down to buying a home, where the conversation turns a little bit is, you have good credit, you actually have a healthy relationship with your debt, but if you want to say that in order for me to buy the house that I want to buy, does it change into an affordability thing just because of the monthly budget, what you have coming in compared to what's going to be going out? That's different.
Mm-hmm.
But a conversation with me to start and saying like, this is what everything looks like. What are your goals? How much money do you actually have access to take care of this? That is a good place to be, to say like, hey, if I'm going to buy this year, can I buy in 3 months, 6 months, or is it going to be like, in the fall or winter? Yes.
What is the difference between a soft credit pull and a hard credit pull?
So a soft credit pull is, it's not going to show up as a hard inquiry or like to where it can impact your score. Another conception or misunderstanding is that a hard credit pull for a mortgage is going to like tank your score. It's not. It only affects your score anywhere between 2 to 7 points. And each bureau ranks it differently, and so that's why we use the range of 2 to 7. However, a soft credit pull lets me see what I need to see, and it can tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it doesn't affect you. And if there's enough positives there, I can technically use that soft credit pull to give you a pre-approval. So the hard inquiry and hard credit pull, it is necessary in order for a mortgage to go through, but you don't necessarily want too many hard credit inquiries on your credit per year. Ideally, they say that you want to keep it between 1 and 2. If you are buying a house, if we have a consultation and it's like, if you don't have, maybe you only have a student loans and a car payment, do you need to add a credit card in order to help boost your score and like basically give you like a diverse credit, profile? Sure. But then if I also know that right now you don't know when you'll want to buy, it doesn't make sense to impact your score twice in a year, especially if you might have to do something else.
Got it. Do utility payments affect credit? Like if somebody is on time with utility payments, does that report?
Oddly enough, you can actually ask for them to report to your credit, and it is wild to me. This just started happening a few years ago. You can have your utilities report to your credit. You can have your Netflix, Hulu subscriptions report to your credit. However, do they make a big impact in your score? No. But if you have someone who is younger and they don't have a car payment because they don't need to, and if they have student loans, maybe they have one credit card, it might not hurt to have maybe their cell phone bill or their electric bill reporting to their credit. And especially if they've been there for, like, if they've been at their residence for a little bit.
Right.
Because you can also have your rent report. And now every landlord is different. So if it's just your like local, mom and pop, landlord who just might have one or two investment properties, it's a little bit harder to get them to have it report. But if it's your normal, like bigger apartment complexes and things like that, that can easily be reported to your credit. Because if you don't pay your rent and they evict you, it goes on there.
All right then. Makes sense.
Yes.
Makes sense. So some myths and truths. Does it help your credit to keep a balance on your credit cards?
Yes and no. It depends on where you're at credit wise. If you are in the stages of building credit, you don't necessarily want to keep balances on them. And if you do, that balance should be, we'll just call it 10% of utilization. But if you have $100,000 in open credit card, like revolving accounts, and if 1 to 3 months, like if you're going to go to Greece, and let's just say here that trip is going to cost you 10 grand, and you want to put it on one of your credit cards and you carry that balance for a couple of months, it's not going to like affect you and hurt your credit the way that it would for someone who is just building credit to be able to, if they put that on there and if they only have $10,000 of open credit and they have a balance of $8,000, that's going to hurt their score.
Interesting. So talk to me about on your credit, if somebody puts if you have either a student loan or some type of medical
Collection.
That's the word I'm looking for. That was a hard one to find.
It's all right.
Goodness.
Or if you have a collection, if it is a medical collection, depending on who the medical collection is held with, and depending on the balance of it, I'm going to tell you let it go, because they don't impact your ability to be able to purchase a home if it's medical. If it's not medical, that's a different story. Student loans, I do encourage for people to either get on a income-based repayment plan, or as long as whatever payment plan is like assigned to them, that it's affordable. I just never want people to be in something to where, like, I always use the example with clients that years ago, my required student loan payment was like, I don't know, I think it was like $1,100 a month. And I was just like, how do they expect for me to be able to do this? Because at the time I worked 2 jobs. I bartended and I worked at a credit union. And I was like, how do you expect me to have to be able to do this? And then calling them, and I was just like, I've paid you, but it's not affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were just like, okay, so like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, when I make more money, I'll definitely pay that. But in the meantime, what can you do based upon this is my income, these are my expenses, and how do we fix it? And then at that time, I think it went from $1,100 and something down to $200 and some odd dollars.
So if somebody has student loans that they feel are way more than what, if I'm hearing you correctly,
Yeah, just call them and say, hey,
can work with me here.
Yeah, I don't have an issue paying you back. It's my debt. However, what you are telling me I need to pay is not affordable.
Right.
And they'll figure it out with you.
That's nice. I didn't know that.
They want their money too.
Right.
They just, if it takes you 50 years to pay it, they're okay with it.
Right. What are some of your favorite credit questions you've gotten through the years?
One is like someone will say, it is always really funny, like, if I don't have anything open, or I've never done anything and I don't know, and then like they apply, you pull their credit, and it's like, so who went to Old Navy?
Right.
Or
20% off.
Like, who did this and who did that? And it's like, because someone pays it.
Right.
Or it's like, if someone asks, well, and said like, I don't have a score, or it's like, if someone will tell me that like, I thought that you could have like a credit score of 1,000. No.
What's the highest credit score you can
850. And they are starting to push through Experian to where like they're considering a 900 score, which to me, like, it's just not necessary.
Right.
Because if they're the only ones that do it, why?
Right.
And if you have a 900 because how they rank things, but then if your other two scores are in the sixes, that 9 does nothing for you.
Right.
Or like the lowest credit score, technically, it can be to where it says like, no credit found. However, but credit scores range between 300 to 850. And if you are someone who is just like, if you got divorced, or if you had, like I had a girl a couple years ago and she ended up getting cancer twice, and because she lost her job and all these things, like she didn't have insurance, but she had cancer and needed to be treated. And so like she had all these collections on there, and it's just like, and then she's like, well, finally I decided to file bankruptcy, but because of all that happening, it scared the crap out of her. And she finally went back and like started being able to build a healthy relationship. Because before it, she had a great credit history, and you can see that on the credit report. But life happened,
Right.
and so she filed bankruptcy to be able to get rid of the debt from the medical side of it, which is totally fine. But now, at that point, she was at a place where it's like, okay, I need to redo this, and how do I do it? And then she ended up buying a house because she did it the right way.
Right. And so credit scores affect the type of financing that you can get.
Mhm.
So when you start with a buyer, is the first thing you do pull the credit so you know what parameters, what programs they qualify for?
No, I always like to start with like a consultation. So I will give the buyer options, and I'll say, hey, before you complete an application, do you want to have a phone call with me? It's what I would prefer, so on and so forth. So that way I can get a feel for what it is that they're looking for and essentially what I'm walking into.
Sure.
And that way I can build that rapport with them. If they just apply, then yes, I'm going to pull the credit, see what's what, and then from there, structure out the application solely based upon credit and income. And then schedule that consultation call with them and say, hey, like, this is what I've worked out with you. Now, in that conversation, like, if something changes, then we just change it. Like, actually, Liz and I have a client, and perfect credit, but where they wanted down payment assistance, and then grandpa decided that he wanted to gift them money for a down payment, that completely changed everything.
Right.
And so it's like what we were going to do is now completely different. And you just pivot.
Which is a great point, and probably one of the things to bring up the most in starting with credit, but for buyers, it's why we constantly say to get pre-approved before you start looking, because there are so many factors. We get so many people that will say, well, what's the interest rate? What do I need to put down? Well, those are two loaded questions. I mean,
Yes.
rate will also depend on credit, correct?
Uh-huh.
And what you need to put down depends on credit. And so there's so much more in that process. So we don't say get pre-approved because we're trying to bully you into that. It truly, for us to put your puzzle together of where you're going to live and what house and what price range, there's so many things that go into that. And so having a trusted partnership between a realtor and a lender is so vital.
Yes.
We know that when we refer someone to Christopher, that these are all the questions he's going to ask. He's not going to say, just go fill this out and then I'll get you your pre-approval.
I'll talk to you in a week.
Right. Because you can put anything down, right?
Yeah.
And some people don't even know what they have on their credit because they
Correct.
just aren't aware
Yes.
until those conversations happen. So that's why we always try to educate on that. It's just such an important piece.
Absolutely.
One other quick question, because this is, I feel like, one of the first questions we always get is, what are the quickest fixes for my credit? Like, it's not bad, but I'd like to boost it. What's the best things to do to get it up quick?
If you have collections and if you pay them, you can, you hold the cards if you have the money. If you have a collection on your credit, you call them and say, hey, let's just say here you owe them $500. I'm willing to pay as long as you are willing to send me a letter of deletion and paid in full. So if they have the ability to do that, to where like if they're going to pay ABC Credit, and because they owe them $500, but ABC Credit says, yes, I'm going to take your $500, but yes, I will send you a paid in full and a deletion letter. Beautiful. It's going to appear as if it was never there. That's going to boost your credit. If you have, let's just say here, if you have a credit card and it's your only credit card, credit limit is $1,000. You owe $700. Okay. Technically, your credit score is missing out on somewhere between 50 to 70 points. So do you pay that balance completely off, or do you pay it down to $100, $200? That's how you're going to start. Like, those are the quickest ways to do it.
What if I have one card at $3,000 with a $3,000 limit, and I have cards at $100, $200? Should I pay off all these little ones before I pay off the big one, or
whatever you can afford to do? You could also do something that is tricky. You can call, like, if you are a member of a credit union, and say, hey, like, I'm in the process of trying to purchase a home, these sorts of things, or like, it's basically, it's on my vision board and my plan to be able to do this year. Okay. Call them and see if they will allow you to consolidate your debt and put it into essentially a unsecured loan and do it that way. And within, if they say yes to doing it for you based upon income and credit profile, and now all your credit cards are at zero, you'll see that within the matter of 30 to 45 days that your score will boost back.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah.
It's a complex topic.
It is.
So having somebody that knows what they're talking about is important. So I
Well,
hope this
thank
was
you.
helpful. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And there'll be more to come. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you.